I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency on Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. Can we get a roll call?
Certainly. Matt Marluzzi.
Here.
Matt Pence.
Present.
Ed Halowinko.
Yo.
Catherine Knight.
Here.
And Cheryl Brown.
Here. Okay, so we can move on to item 3, which is our mission statement, which I believe Commissioner Clockey is still working on. So I think we can pass on to public comment. Do we have anybody in the wings?
No, it does not look like there are any attendees tonight, so no.
Okay, then let's move on to item 5, receipt and discussion, S22-610 13 Valley Road with Land Tech. So if we can, I don't know if you want to start us off, Alexis, or if Land Tech wants to start off.
Sure. So I'll just do a very, very brief recap and then send it over to the applicant. This is a 13 Valley Road, which is on Wilson Point. They had previously, the applicant, the property owner had previously made an application to you in April of 2000 oh my gosh, 2002? Was it that 22 rather? Was it this year? Very recently, and they ended up withdrawing their application. The application was for landscaping activities in and adjacent to the wetland that's in the front of the property. And so they've hired Land Tech to present a similar but hopefully improved plan for the property. And then, so Mr. Tom Ryder of Land Tech is here, and Tom, I can either share my screen, or you should have freedom to share your screen if you want to take the commission through the site plan.
I would like to share my screen. I have some color ups easier, just to make it a little easier to follow everything. So let me do that. I believe you can see my screen. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I always have to check because sometimes people can't, and I don't know what you're seeing. But thank you. My name is Tom Ryder. I'm a certified ecologist with Land Tech here in Westport, and representing Stuart Mogul and Maeve Smith on their property at 13 Valley Road. They came to us with, I have some photographs in here, so I'll just show you the site plan and then I'll show you some photographs. But they came to us saying that they wanted to basically improve their wetland system. Their house is here. This grades down to a sloped area where there's a large wetland system. And I say large because it goes onto the property to the north and property to the south. And there's a larger wetland system across the street, and it all kind of connects, formally connects. So they wanted to kind of improve this area. It's overgrown with a lot of some invasives, some grape, porcelain berry, etc. Down in this area here, there's a lot of mugworts. Over here, there's brag mighties. I didn't specify it out by a polygon because it's kind of in this area and then just kind of scattered throughout here. But basically, there's improvements from that regard, which I can get back into in a little bit. There was this lawn area here, which was previously lawn, which has been kind of overgrown. They bought the property about a year and a half ago. This has been all overgrown, and they'd like to restore that back to a lawn. And in so doing, what I kind of recommended was an invasive species control program and some planting and some removal of other stuff. And as part of that buffer system, I've shown here in dark green a kind of a wildflower meadow. And the idea here is that you would have a lawn area going into a wildflower meadow and into a upland review area, and then going into the wetland. The wetland, which I'll show to you in a couple of minutes, has pictures, is mostly meadows, mostly herbaceous. There are some tall pole-sized, very thin trees, which I've kind of highlighted here in green. They are all ash, and they've all been succumbed to the ash borer. They've all died. And like I said, I'll show you some photographs, but I want to give you an over picture first. But they are fairly small, and a little wildlife value. But the plan here is to remove a lot of the, all of the dead overstory ash trees here, and fell them in place on like one of them in here, one of them in here, like one of them over here. Just drop them in place and let the wildlife aspect take over. And then all the rest of them would be removed from the site. And I can get into wildlife value if you guys want to. I'm kind of doing a, not a brief presentation, but I want to do an overview and then, get into any specifics you want to, for questions. There's a very large, it's 24-inch ash here, and all the rest of them are pole size. I think they range from, what was it, to 4 to 10 dBH, so they're not really that big. And the other component to this is, this was on the original application that Alexis spoke of, and that's to expand the driveway here. Again, this is the house. You come up the driveway and go into the garage area here. And the idea is to expand the and level off this upper area here. And when they level it off in here, we're changing the grades to access that. So this would be widened by a couple feet. This would be widened a little bit larger. There'd be a retaining wall here. And most of this is outside of the setbacks, which I guess I probably should mention here. I think I failed to present that. This is the wetland line here. And then there is a, well, there was original water course in this area here. I've walked it. I don't really think it's a water course anymore. But historically has been shown on this property and has shown up on previous surveys. So we left the water course line on here. So here is a 100-foot wetland, sorry, water course wetland setback here. And then the water course line is here. So you have the wetland, you have the 50-foot wetland setback here, and then you have the 100-foot wetland, or sorry, water course line here. So the rest of the stuff is basically outside of your jurisdiction, but I wanted to show it all because people in your position who are trying to regulate your town's resources, I thought it would be beneficial to show the entire project. So that's the driveway component of it. This is the wetland component of it. Now this will be done, the invasive species will be controlled through spraying, some target spraying in these areas here, especially the mugwort. And the area here to the north, again, I'll show you some photographs. This is all kind of overgrown as well. So what we wanted to do is we have a row of shrubs that are going to go back in through here. And then this area will be cleared out and put in with a meadow seed mix, kind of restore it to a meadow. And then there is some screening shrubs in this area, just to add diversity, add some screening, add for escape cover, and there's a number of other features that they provide. But the idea here is that this is a meadow that used to be pretty much all native species. And now we're probably at 2/3, a little bit more, except for this frag in here, which is obnoxious. But we still have a lot of native vegetation in here which to save. So we're at the point now where if we can spray and control these, it's still at a manageable level. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and then I'm going to open up another screen here that shows some photographs to kind of put it all in perspective here. Share my screen again. So here is, you can see this again. I'm sorry, I have to check. Okay.
Yes.
So here is the view from the house, looking down toward the upland area, which is the upland review area, and then down into the wetland area. And these are these small pole size ash trees that are going to be removed. And again, a couple of them will be felled in place. The rest of them will just be taken off site. Now there is another tree over here that's this is the ash tree is going to be removed. Again, there's some vines on here. Sorry, that's probably. And then there is a tree over here that's also being requested to be pruned just for the health of the tree and at the request of the neighbor to the north, actually, just to clear it out a little bit for him, but it's mostly for the health of the tree. So let me get you another one. I'm hoping that if I segue, yeah, that you should be able to see the new photograph. This is when I showed you the site plan, there was some lower ash trees. This is another ash tree in here. Now a lot of this is porcelain berry. Some of it is a grape. This is kind of all taken over. And like I had, in the goal of removing invasive species, this will come down. The threshold for the porcelain berry and the grape will be removed, and a lot of this will go away, and we can restore this back to a native meadow, which you can see on the property to the south continues as a native meadow. There's some frag in there, but we're trying to restore it back to a meadow. This area here is behind this shrub and in front of this shrub, there is a large area of mugwort, which is starting to colonize. And I'd really like to get rid of that as soon as, before it takes over too much. And this again is just from the road, just to give you a perspective of the trees, the size and that they're dead. They're kind of clumps. I've shown them on clumps on the.
Can I interrupt for 1 minute?
And I'm done here. So, but yeah, I can open up to any questions. Would you like me to show them back to the site plan or the photographs?
No, this picture.
Okay.
Just a little way in from the road. The last time I looked, which was before the current drought situation, and there was more water around than there is now. There was a. It would be flattering to call it a stream, but there was moving water going left to right, which ultimately went into a pipe, I believe, that went underneath the road and came out underneath the driveway, and then came out in the area that you were mentioning was going to be groomed in some way. Is that still there? I mean, is that the water course that you were describing that was historic, or is that just the wetlands?
Well, this was the drought year, so this was a bad year for me to be able to see what you saw. However, I've been doing this for a while, and I can kind of see it, root zones, and I can kind of see modeling, and I can see other things in there. So there was a water course there. I did not see any flowing water. Obviously, it was doing, but there has been no grading in this property for a long period of time. So, and there won't be either. What I failed to mention is all these trees will be cut to grade, and there will be no grading. So what was there is still there and will remain there as regard to drainage and as regard to existing grades.
Okay, while we're on the same picture, and I think Alexis, I mean, we've discussed this more or less in the past, have we not? But that was a different application than the one we're looking at now. Is that correct?
That is correct. So they withdrew their previous application following your comments and
Okay.
have reapplied with a new application.
Okay, without going to the point of spraying individual dead ash trees, there is a benefit in a wetlands of having some dead trees because they're habitats.
Yes.
And cutting them all down, I think, would be a shame. How many one would leave is, and still have it look nice. I would leave to you guys, but that's just, my observation. I would be sorry to see them all go.
If I can answer that, I looked at that as well, and I spoke to the owners originally. I mean, when we started this process, and first of all, most of the habitat for dead trees, you typically want to leave 1 or 2 snags per acre is really what you want to do ecologically. Now, those guidelines are typically designed for larger trees. So when you get into the 15 to 18, the larger mature trees that have just died. These are smaller trees. So what I did was to put this in perspective, I created a project narrative, and I went through kind of the usefulness of these snags. And when you get into woodpeckers are probably the primary users of these dead trees, and most of them require 13 or 18-inch diameter. That was a downy, or 12 inches in diameter for other wildlife. And these start out at 4 to 10, and then they taper off very slowly, very, very shallowly. So that these are, again, pole size, very narrow DBH trees. So they really don't have the wildlife value that a lot of other snags, which I think you're referring to, have. Also, there will be some trees left over up by the driveway area that are going to remain.
Well, that's fine. I just want to thank you for your consideration.
I just wanted to, we've already considered all that. We've already thought about that, from a biological and ecological perspective, and what I can't support is myself, and just wanted to present that.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
I'm actually completed with my. I just want to know if you wanted me to go back to. I think I'd go back to the site plan. We can discuss any further questions with the site plan if that would be beneficial.
Could we do that?
Yep.
I do have a question on the invasive species removal and maintenance of that, because a lot of times that takes a little bit more than just the initial removal. And I was wondering what the plan was for that.
Right. We have the planting notes on the plan that we've established. And the reason we did that is because just what you just said. No, you guys are all experienced in this. You obviously from that question, you know that this is not just a simple thing where you go in, spray, and you're done. This is a multi-year type of a program. Mugwort typically takes a few years to get rid of. It requires a little different treatment than other species, just due to their tenacity. And the idea here is to go through and initially spray it, and then you would remove it with mechanical removal, just to get it the debris out of there. And then you do any spraying, any respraying. And then after that, when it starts going respraying, you would then retreat it again. I'm sorry to say it that way. And then when you get to a point after a year or two where you've reduced it quite a bit, then the biologists such as me or the contract sprayer, which is a certified applicator, would say, okay, we're at the point now where these species are now controllable, and you can now replant. The idea is you don't want to replant early on, because then it's a high labor thing where you're trying to go in and identify native plants versus invasives. But when you get down to like the 10 to 20% or even lower, and most of the invasive species have been controlled, and you're only dealing with regrowth, then you can go in and plant these areas with meadow seed mix and etc. And it becomes a lot more effective. And then you monitor it afterward to make sure that these plants don't come back, because otherwise you're back to where you started from and all your money's kind of gone away. So yes, it is a multi-year program.
Okay, thank you.
The upper right-hand corner, again, when I was there and we had a lot more water around than we have now, that was almost a textbook example of a wetlands. There was active water running in through the little pipe underneath the driveway and spreading out within that little area. There was what I thought looked like appropriate plantings at the time. And did I understand that you were going to change that, to groom that in some way? Because I wasn't so sure that it was, I wondered why it was objectionable the way it is.
Well, I actually had a picture of that, which I won't bother you with unless it's helpful, but this is all kind of all overgrown. And when I was looking at trying to figure out the hydrology in a hydrological conditions in like a drought year, I looked down and I saw there is a depression in this little area here, but all the rest of these species are upland or FAC up species. I had them listed in here, but basically none of them were really FAC wet species, indicating that they were hydrophytic. There were a couple in this area here. So what I was trying to do was open this area back up, get rid of all the overgrown vegetation, and put in a seed mix that has both wetland capability and more drier capability up here. So the seeds of both regimes will be planted, and then the seeds that will do well and down here will be kind of the wetter ones, and then the drier ones will do well here. And you'd have this establishment of a natural meadow again. And then these species here, which I have as arrowwood and these are all dogwoods, will do well. I picked FAC species, and facultative means that they'll do well in wetland or upland areas. And the reason I picked those is because they'll thrive in that type of seasonal inundation or temporary inundation, and then other season drying. So that's why we picked that up, is one, just to remove the overgrown vegetation and just kind of put it back to the way we thought it was originally.
Did you say you have a photograph of it?
Yeah, let me stop sharing here and go back to sharing here. I'm sorry, that's the driveway we were showing.
Right.
And I do have one. I can probably get it for you pretty quickly, but this is the overgrown vegetation we're talking about. I do have a close-up. I can get into a different directory that I can get for you pretty easily if you want it. But that's the area.
Okay, well, I'm not sure, Alexis, that they are still around because we didn't have the original application, but I took some pictures there when there was water.
Yeah, I can.
I also went to the site with the original application, and it was a very generous flow of water. It was not like a small trickle. It was a generous stream that you could say that was running through.
That was my perception.
And that's the usual for that area. I've been in that area quite a bit over the years, so it's normally running as a stream. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is not what it looked like when I was there.
Okay, this was when they just before they made their application in March 2022. But so that's one side of the driveway.
Well, I guess rolling this. Yeah, okay.
If you will, I brought up a picture here I just took a couple days ago, and I can share that now if you'd like.
Well,
Sounds
it's
good.
probably dried up, I would think. I mean,
Well, yeah. So there it is now. The driveway is right here, and then here's this overgrown vegetation of a lot of grape, a lot of privet. I have a whole flora here, which I can probably identify which was going in the area, but a lot of this, like I said, is more upland species in here. Right over here is that wetter area that you're referring to, and there is a little bit more wetter species down in this area, but the vast majority of it is more of a FAC or FAC up type of environment. And
well, this appears to me to be well overgrown from when I last saw it, which was not that long ago. But my real concern is just that there is a occasionally and sufficiently flow of water along the edge that we've already discussed. It goes through a pipe or some other kind of conduit and comes out and spreads out as it should, and nurtures at least a very small wetland area. And I just would like to see that, preserved and not, turned into grass or anything else. And that's my concern. Maybe you've already explained that that's not going to happen. If so, then that's grand.
I have a question just on the setback, on the planning screen.
Yep, I can get back to that. I'll see here.
I was just curious as to why the boulders, it seemed like that the boulders weren't going to be along the setback line, that there was going to be lawn coming into the setback line and then the boulders and then the meadow. I just wanted to understand.
This is right, I'm gonna zoom right in here. So we have an existing wall here with a planted garden, which is gonna remain. So the wall comes here and then it has a return here. And then this is the wildflower meadow. And then this is the, overgrown area, which is, back to lawn. And this is the row of boulders that the question is about. And the reason we did that is, yes, we could have put the, so what you're saying is you'd like the row of boulders up here in the upland review area line?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not sure as to, if there's a setback in terms of typically what we've seen, like with, having the buffer zone would be at the setback line.
Well, okay, my design wasn't really for setback or non-setback. It was type of, ecologically how everything all kind of works together and what kind of buffer we needed. And that was my perspective. But, as commissioners, you can, require other things. But my idea here was that you have this return in here, and I would like a nice wildflower buffer prior to the upland review area, prior to the wetland. And so I kind of made a kind of a small sinuous type of thing that kind of followed the contours a little bit and kind of made it more naturalized in there. But again, if you're looking for something different, you can request that.
Alexis, do we typically have the demarcation near the wetland line or near the setback line?
So technically you don't have a setback, you have an upland review area. So those are areas that are defined outside of the wetland and watercourse, where you kind of predetermine that activities within those upland review areas are more likely to have an impact on a wetland or watercourse. So you don't have a defined setback in your regulations. There's nothing that's outright prohibited like a setback. So the wetland regulations are constructed very much on a case-by-case basis. So you're looking at the individual wetland and its functions and values, and then each individual buffer or remaining buffer. So for this property, it was constructed, I think, in 1995, or at least it had a wetlands permit in 1995 for the construction of the residence. That permit in 1995, there was no upland review area. They just, if your property had a wetland, a permit was required. But what they ended up requiring was something similar to what is on Land Tech's plan now. So the retaining wall that's existing, they had pointed out that that existed prior to the construction of the residence, and the permit at that time had some grading. Let's see, it's hard to point to it. To closer to the road, so approximately where the words where the mugwort area is, it kind of dipped. Not that far down, but closer to the word of and to. The silt fence line related to the septic fields, because I believe that the septic fields are in the area where the other text is that's on the slope that says remove overgrown vegetation. Right, those are the septic fields. And so in 95, there was grading just below that wall. So you don't have a buffer per se, though typically once you do approve a permit for a new house, you frequently do then kind of call out a designated buffer. And I'd say that the activities that they're doing are not very different than the buffer that was established when the house was built. Does all that rambling make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
And I can send that 1995 plan around again, if you like.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I just would point out, at the risk of just going back and hammering again, that as I recall, when I visited the site, the wetlands, which seems to me, apart from the fact that it meets the definition of wetlands alongside the road, is also has the likelihood of being replenished to some extent by the fact that it's on the downslope from the house and from the other parts of the property, which makes it seem very valuable to me. And as I drive further along the road, past the lower right-hand corner to other properties, there's nothing left at all of whatever wetlands may have been there. So to me, it just makes it that much more precious, and attempt to preserve it along the entire extent of that edge of the property. That's it.
I just have a question, because I see there's a lot of trees that are, in theory, canopy type trees. Are there plans to put back in some healthy canopy trees for the area?
Well, this area up here has a row of trees, and that's not going to be disturbed. So this area is going to already be kind of maintained. There are a couple that could be taken down, but most of the ash, are taken down, but the rest of them will remain. The idea here was, again, to make this a meadow, an upland and a wetland meadow. The reason I was thinking that was a good idea for this area is if you drive along this whole road area, these meadows, we just did one across the street for down the road a little bit. We created a pond and a nice meadow environment as well. But a lot of these meadows are getting kind of filled in, and all these trees are coming in. And as a biologist, I like to have different habitats. I like to have some shrubs, some mature woods, and some meadows. And I saw this as an opportunity here to keep this as a meadow. Again, you can, opine and, we can discuss, but that was the reason for the plan as is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of birds of prey and, significant, like with ospreys and bald eagles in the area. So I know that like canopy trees are also important, and they've lost in Wilson Point area a lot of canopy trees as people have put in more favorable meadows.
That's true. And these pole sides are kind of small for the big birds to be sitting on, but there are some mature trees up in here in this area which will remain. And that was kind of the whole big plan as to what to take down and what to keep.
It would be nice to see some canopy trees in there.
Okay.
Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, Alexis, what would the next steps be? Is this what type of regulated activity is this?
Right. So I considered it an intermediate application. You can certainly make the formal determination of the application level that it warrants. So again, you have an intermediate and then a significant regulated activity. And that is up to you. I can certainly read what a significant regulated activity entails, going back to your regulations, but they're not doing any, as previously stated by the applicant, they're not doing any grading, filling, they are just trying to change the mix of vegetation within the wetland. So I don't think that it's significant, but at the end of the day, it's your decision.
Okay.
And
Any
so,
commissioners?
without that, then you would just, it sounds like you've asked the applicant to consider tweaking the plan potentially. So it can return to your agenda at the next meeting. I can include a draft resolution, but you don't need to make any decisions at your next meeting. You have 65 days to render a decision from today's date.
Okay. Actually, I do have one more question for the applicant. Do you have it laid out as far as the timing for the invasive plant removal? Like what season you would do it in?
Yeah, I actually used to do that for seasons. That's what you're getting at. What season to do what? Is that what you're asking? Or sequence?
This season,
Okay.
because I'm just thinking, I know that even though this is scrubby and overgrown, there's probably a lot of nesting birds in here. So I was just thinking about that.
Right, and the reason I didn't put season on here is because this is going to be turned over to a certified applicator, and they get a license through the DEP, and they have specific requirements on that for that very reason. You can't, remove these shrubs, during this season. And also, I'll be working with them as well to say, hey, look, leave these alone for this period, whatever. So we will be coming up with a plan for that. But the reason I didn't put them on there is because one, the DEP kind of has those kind of things in there, but the applicators, certified applicators that I've been using are all cognizant of that, and they all kind of have their special ways of doing things. So with the understanding of that, I didn't want to pigeonhole a certified applicator into doing certain things in a certain way. They're all professionals, so that's why I kind of left it open, but we do understand that certain things have to be done in certain seasons, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was being considered.
Nope, agreed.
Okay. So I think we're all set. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Ryder.
Great, thank you all, appreciate it.
Okay, and I think we can move on to, let's see, discussion and or decision for S22-596 Witch Lane with FC Engineering LLC.
Okay, so this application had a public hearing. This is a significant regulated activity. Your public hearing opened in the August meeting and closed during your September meeting. No one from the public spoke at the meeting. You might recall at the last meeting in September when the public hearing was closed, you did receive a report from the outside consultant that had the applicant retained to review the proposed work. And there was a bit of discussion between that outside consultant and the applicant's team. Again, it is requesting a permit to dredge the pond at 75 Witch Lane. The plan includes a dewatering plan and then a sediment management plan. Most of the sediment would go to the area on the property where currently there is a house, but the applicant is proposing to demolish that house and use the former foundation areas as a stockpiling area. Both the, I'd say that the outside consultant did list some very good questions and concerns about the original application, and at your last meeting, the applicant did return with revised plans and revised narrative, and for the most part addressed all of the concerns that had been brought up by the consultant. So the applicant well, they might be watching. They can't answer any questions since you've closed the public hearing. I did include a draft resolution to approve with conditions and tried to include some of the conditions, try to address some of any lingering concerns that you may have regarding the timing and the seasonality of when the dredging would happen, limiting the amount of time that the activity can extend through, and a few other things that I can't think of off the top of my head. So that report was in your meeting packet.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners have any comments on the draft resolution? Okay, does anyone wish to make a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion then. I looked this over and I'll make a motion to accept the draft resolution for S22-596-75 Witch Lane, dated October 5th, 2022. Do I have a second? Okay,
Looks, Mr. Holowenko?
Yeah.
and any discussion?
I would like a voice vote, not a person by person vote is what I would like, if that's possible.
You would like a person by person vote?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion before Ms. Brown calls it to a vote? All right. Cheryl, would you like me to call the commissioners?
Sure.
All right. Matt Merluzzi,
Aye.
Cheryl Brown,
Aye.
Matt Pence.
No.
That was a no.
No.
Ed Holowenko,
Abstaining.
Catherine Knight,
No.
and John Mailing.
No.
Okay. So then the motion is unsuccessful with a vote of 2-3.
Okay.
Would anyone like to make a follow-up motion explaining the majority vote?
We have some quiet
Right.
commissioners here. Okay, so do we move on to the next item?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on to S22-608 5 Topping Lane, Peppet. Replacement of a failing septic. So I know that we have a draft resolution as well for that. I don't know if there's any discussion. Does anybody have any comments?
I move that we accept the application S22-608 5 Topping Lane as outlined in the in staff's memorandum discussion. I don't have the date of that memorandum, but it ought to be added.
October 5th.
Okay.
Anybody second it? I'll second it. Okay, discussion? Okay, so should we just take a vote? Okay,
I can do
Uh,
a roll. You want me to do, I'll do a quick roll again.
sure.
Um, Matt Merluzzi,
Yes.
Cheryl Brown,
Yes.
Matt Pence,
Yes.
Ed Halenko,
Yes.
Catherine Knight,
Yes.
John Malin.
Yes.
All right, so motion is approved unanimously.
Okay, so I think we can move on to S22-609, 556 and 558 Westport Avenue, and 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14 Renzulli Road.
All right, so this application was received at your last meeting of September. At their receipt, the applicant received some comments from both staff and from you verbally during that meeting. They have submitted earlier this week some revisions and some new information. So a revised landscaping plan, civil plan, narratives. They've included a wetland delineation report and a wetland assessment or wetland impact assessment report from Mr. William Kinney and Associates, including Bill Kinney. I have not had a chance to do a thorough review of all the submitted application materials, the new submitted application materials yet, still working on that. But I guess it would probably be worthwhile to have the applicant maybe do just a quick review of the updated information. This is a significant regulated activity, so at some point you will have to schedule a public hearing. But maybe applicant, if you want to go over the revisions,
Sure,
get that started.
sure.
Thanks, Craig.
For the record, my name is Craig Flaherty. I'm a senior engineer and principal with Redness and Mead, land use consulting company with offices in Stanford and Wilton. We're providing land surveying and site civil engineering services on this project for the applicant Coastal Luxury Homes. I'm joined tonight by my colleague Vincent Hines, as well as Bill Kenny, who is the project ecologist, soil scientist, wetland scientist, and landscape architect. We provided materials in response to staff's narrative last week. We're hoping to get to a point where you feel as though the application as presented is complete, so that it can be scheduled for that public hearing, as of course that's necessary for our overall land use process. Share my screen to the landscape plan. The current landscape plan, as a reminder, this is a 4-story predominantly residential apartment building. There is some street level retail facing Westport Avenue. The resource in question is in the back of the property on the east side. It's fed by several stormwater drains coming from a large developed upland watershed, 30-inch pipe coming in on the north, 30-inch pipe coming in on the east, and a 15-inch pipe coming in from the south, with an outlet down to the west. And our proposal is to do our best to restore an impacted wetland and adjacent upland areas as a part of this project. All the stormwater runs to the west in a different direction. And we have, as we presented last time, water quality management, filtration, infiltration devices to take care of that stormwater. But in terms of revisions to the plan, they're fairly limited. The pool deck is the same shape as it was before. It's now in 2 tiers. So the pool is actually at a lower tier. And you'll see a new ramp on the east side of the pool terrace. What we've done is taken the front door, the interior amenity space, the amenity space on the north side of the building, the amenity space on the south side of the building, that's all connected and flush. And now you can have a kind of strolling or rolling walk through the woodland walk around the building, connecting those amenity spaces to kind of our third amenity space, which is the woodland and the wetland in terms of the enjoyment of that walk. We took this walk and shifted it farther away from the wetland edge and the grading associated with it. We also tightened up and shifted that farther away from the wetland edge. As Alexis noted, you now have a soils report. There was a flag or two right in this corner that needed to be adjusted. One of them, I think, either fell down or was removed by landscaping between when Bill placed it initially and when we located it initially, but that's been corrected on our background now. Bill's report now includes a discussion of alternatives. This report includes a discussion on the boardwalk, which mirrors the discussion that we've had together and our assessment that we feel it can be a positive to the oversight of the resource with minimal impact to install. Obviously, this is this is an element that you can consider optional for the applicant. We think it's good. We would like it, but we'd be happy to accept a condition that did not include that in the ultimate site plan. Alternatives considered included the no-build alternative, which on the outset doesn't accomplish the basic objectives of the applicant, but it also doesn't give us the ability to do the enhancements that we're proposing. And we think the enhancements that we're proposing are substantial. They're indicated not only on this overall sheet, but there's a second sheet which focuses, which is not that one, which I'll call up shortly, which focuses on the buffer enhancements in the, call that one up. All right, did that change screen to a smaller one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is just so you're familiar when you're looking at the different documents, the big one is the overall landscaping plan for the site, but this one, which just has the plan in the corner, is the detail for the enhancement section. So, we do feel the proposed plan is better actually than the no-build alternative. We talked about a version and came up in the comments from wetland conservation staff. This is your 50-foot wetland setback line, if you can see that red dashed line right there. So there is a corner of the building that extends within it, and they suggested that the building be at least 50 feet away. We looked at that again. All the stormwater runs away from this wetland. We didn't think it was a material impact whether that corner was in or out. But again, I will say if that kind of the psychological line of 50 feet is important to the commission, we could adjust the corner of that building to stay out of that setback. And then we also discussed an earlier version of our development plan, which, after the team, which included me and Bill Kenny, looked at it, we asked the applicant and architect to make significant revisions, but this was from April. It was a significant amount of additional surface parking, which is kind of the place to start, I suppose, and it had all the amenity areas on the south side of the building. The predominant change to this plan.
That plan is not
Oh,
shown.
that plan is not showing. Okay, good.
Yes.
Hold on. Okay, I'll stop share and reshare again. Thank you for interrupting my review of nothing. This is the version 2 plan from April. It had more surface parking and a huge amenity, kind of twice the size amenity space in the south side of the building. And the major change here was to convince the team to put more of the parking under the building, which is better for two reasons. It reduces significantly the footprint of the project and covers that parking. So the associated potential for water quality impacts do not occur, and enable us to get, half of the amenity space up in this area well away from the wetland. Back to the plan at hand. I'm just going through our revisions. Find that for myself over here. At staff's request, we added 6-inch trees within the upland review area and areas of proposed effect. We've clarified which is the primary plan to look at for the grading. It's all on the grading plan. Grading has been removed from the other plan, so there's no confusion. The wetlands assessment has been provided. Bill has adjusted the plant list for the buffer habitat enhancement plan to include native non-cultivars, except for 6 evergreen trees that are predominantly there for screening and have a high tolerance to deer browse. There's been more clarity added to the invasive. You see this, back to the buffer plan, there's more clarity added to where invasives are proposed to be removed, which is really the north section of the wetland adjacent to kind of the loading area of that strip mall just to the north. There's been more clarity added to where the wetland meadow is being proposed. It's really kind of a temporary wetland meadow. The idea is to stabilize the ground surface after the invasive removal and while waiting for the proposed trees to develop canopy. It's a nice picture. Okay. We talked about the 50-foot setback. There was a recommendation from Westport on performance bond. We agree that monitoring is necessary to ensure the success of the invasive plant removal and the enhancement plannings, and we're happy to follow whatever protocol Norwalk Conservation Commission has and uses on similar applications to ensure proper execution. There was a comment to minimize impervious areas. You can see we've already tried to do that through the evolution of the site plan, but we'll also point out the way the DEEP tracks this through the MS4 program now, and which is a subset of the Clean Water Act, is to track directly connected impervious area. And so because of our stormwater enhancements, we're significantly reducing that directly connected impervious area. Right now, we estimate upwards of 30% of the site is directly connected impervious area where water hits hardscape and runs on hardscape or through pipes directly to wetlands and watercourses. And at the end of the day, less than 6% of the proposed project site will be directly connected, but even that direct connection has a stop through a large oil grit separator. And we've managed peaks for the 100-year storm event and all storms up to it, as well as providing the water quality enhancements that are required for this application. And then idea came up about using more low impact development stormwater controls. The locations, which aren't shown here, so let me go to where they are shown. Hold on, let me find the right drawing. So the soil tests that we conducted to determine the ability for the site soils to absorb the groundwater indicated, stormwater indicated fairly high groundwater, which made us choose to locate stormwater controls where we could fill and get those stormwater controls up and above existing grades. So under the elevated pool terrace, we have our large retainment units under a fill section near the amenity area and site walk was another section, and then under a fill slope over here on the west side, all except for this corner, well away from the regulated areas. And we're also kind of able to use, being under other components of the site plan is efficient in terms of the limited disturbance, right? So that allows us to propose these devices in areas where we could fill based on the soil testing, and also keep the overall limited disturbance really tight while getting a lot of benefit out of the storage available in these devices. So again, we feel, given our gains on reducing directly connected impervious area, we feel like it's an appropriate stormwater design for the site. So that's a run through of the comments we've received to date. Again, we hope that the commission can find at some point that they feel this application is complete enough to open the public hearing.
Okay, thank you for that update on your plans. Commissioners, does anybody have any questions on what you just reviewed on the additions to the application?
Well, I would just say it seems like the sort of thing that we ought to move reasonably quickly to a public hearing. I think that it makes sense. I think they've done enough work to raise it to the level where it can benefit from a public hearing. I remain unpersuaded about the boardwalk. The more I think about it, the more unpersuaded I am. Is there any such thing, Alexis, as a line item veto in the work that the Conservation Commission does? Or do we have to vote on the whole package, even though there's only one small part that we don't agree with?
So when making an approval, you can deny an application, you can approve an application, you can approve it with limitations, with conditions, and with modifications. So it is with the caveat that all of those things tie back to protecting the wetland and watercourse. So you can have conditions, but those conditions have to be clearly conditions that reduce impact to the wetlands, and likewise any limitations or modifications that you may attach to your approval.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I would actually like to say that I think that the boardwalk is a benefit to the site. I think that having eyes seeing the wetland, this wetland is in the back of a lot of different, commercial buildings, and as such, things can get dumped back there. I really think that, if this is seen as something benefit to the residents, and they're actually using it, if they see, it being, damaged in any way, or there's trash accumulation, I feel like they'll be able to get to it. They'll have staff and maintenance to address any issues that are being brought up by, any other people, or just even things washing into the wetlands from the other sites. So I would say that my opinion on it is a little different than Commissioner Mailing's.
Oh,
I agree with that.
I'm more persuaded than I was.
Okay.
I just have a question on that, just around pets, because I know that was something that was brought up previously. Obviously having dogs off leash would not be appropriate to be running around in the wetlands. It would just be helpful to get clarification on the
Yeah, I know that I'm sure that the plan is to have a pet-friendly residence, but I'll talk to the applicant as to whether or not that could include a requirement for dogs to be leashed when outside on the property.
Yeah, because I didn't see like a kind of a dog relief area, and the issue that it could become a temptation to just use that area of the property as an amenity for dogs.
That's a very good point. and we might want to add one of those outside of the upland review area. So we're going to think about that. Thank you for pointing it out.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
I just had one. I was attending the planning and zoning meeting last week, and I know that they had some discussion with you guys regarding a they weren't thrilled at the parking up by Westport Avenue, which is obviously outside of this commission's upland review area, and their point was to consider removing that parking area in the front and moving the building north. Has that been given any additional consideration? Just because I think that
Yes.
if that were to happen, then you would have quite a bit more distance potentially from the
Well, I'll show
wetland.
you the quick sketch that Bruce Byfield came up with. Because we still have the key is that we have retail up there, and we need to maintain a certain amount of parking for it. Hold on, I'm just trying to find his sketch.
Maintain the retail or retain the parking? if
Retain
you
the
keep-
parking, in vicinity to the retail. So I'll show you the sketch that he came up with that would answer the nature of the question that P&Z is considering. So, I think on a big picture, no one loves the idea that you drive down Route 1 and you see a bunch of parking lots. And so they're trying to think of ways as they're rewriting their zoning regulations to reduce or eliminate that. So they're asking us to consider it. We went through a long presentation on how we are significantly reducing it. We have a dozen trees up there. We're only doing one row of parking. It's significantly reduced from the parking you see today. But when tasked with what a potential solution was, Bruce did a plan like this, where we took, this amount of building off here and added it over there, but still were able to have some parking in the vicinity of what would be the retail, but it wasn't in front of the building. So that was kind of where we were headed in terms of the thought related to the front parking lot.
Okay.
So Alexis, do you think that we have enough information to schedule the public hearing at this point?
Yeah, I suppose you could. I think I know that the application was referred to the Public Works Department for review of the stormwater plan. Have they?
We have not yet received comments from them, but I
Okay.
assume we could have them before the public hearing if you so scheduled. I mean, really for our, I'm looking at the planning and zoning agenda. My target, if everything goes well, is to try to get their approval by December 8. That's my target. And obviously you folks have to vote first before that. So I don't know if you can back into that or how that makes sense in your upcoming October and November agendas.
Right, so let's just double check the calendar real quick. So it was,
You've got the 25th of this month, and then it looks like the 8th of November. as
November.
two upcoming meetings.
Alexis, do we need the comments back from Department of Public Works? Before?
it's not required though. So I think the risks to the applicant has a lot of things being concurrently reviewed by a lot of departments, whether it's public works for drainage or planning and zoning, like I just mentioned, for kind of the general layout, fire marshal. So there's just a lot of potential
We might get
Changes
comments
and
which make
tweaks?
changes, yeah. Which
Right.
can affect
And
your
so-
approval.
Right, at the end of the day, you, by state statute, you, the inland wetland agency, do need to go first. The planning and zoning cannot make their decision until they get your report. So it's,
If we,
Craig,
if
would
we
you be
set it up
ready
for
by-
the, if we set it
Would
up
you
for
be
the
ready
8th,
by October 25th?
or maybe the 8th of November.
yeah, you know, I mean, as much as I want to go as fast as possible, I think you're right. We want to be certain that we have a few of these referral agency comments back. So if we opened on the November 8th, ostensibly, if we didn't have a lot or meaningful public comment, you could close on the 8th as well. But then you wouldn't likely be voting on a resolution until December 13th, it looks like.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
And when is your planning and zoning as well?
Yeah, they only have one meeting scheduled in December, and that's the 8th, which is before yours. So that's my issue. And we take a long break.
But
for
we
the
don't know
holidays.
if they're gonna make it a decision by the 8th.
We don't. This is true enough. They could. We're hopeful.
Be surprised.
We're usually pretty good at what we do, but you know. So yeah, the only other option would be to try to open have that hearing on the 25th, so you could vote on the 8th. You know, I understand our time restrictions at this point. And I might, you know.
Alexis, could we keep it open and, or I'm just trying
So
to
if-
think of other ways
yeah.
to handle it.
So you could, if you want the public hearing to open on the 25th, you'd have to make that motion tonight. If you want to have the public hearing scheduled for the second Tuesday of November, which is the 8th, then you could delay making that decision until you meet again on the 25th of October. The 8th
Wait,
is your, I mean,
wait, we would,
Or you could do it
if we waited until the 8th, then our decision would be the 13th of December, it looks like. As soon as we
Correct.
would make the
unless
decision.
you were to hold a special meeting for some reason, but right, usually you don't meet normally you'd meet the 4th Tuesday of the month, but that is on the 22nd.
Well, if we were to move for the 25th, then the pressure's on the applicant to get the bits and pieces pulled together. And I recognize that they have a few, but in order to try to cooperate with their need to get things done sooner, you know, I would certainly be content to have it on the 25th.
And we could take public comment on the 25th, and if for whatever reason we don't have some of our referral comments back, you could then leave the hearing open through the 8th of November.
Does that work, Alexis?
Sure, as long as the applicant understands that if a public hearing on the 25th would require sending out notice to the
Like tomorrow.
well, abutters and across the street, right, by this Friday.
Well, then
Um,
I move that we schedule a public hearing on this application for October 25th.
Does that work for the applicant?
Yeah, you know what, I really appreciate you guys trying to push this forward, but you know, I'm thinking about my referral process, and I think maybe it would just go smoother if we geared everything up for the 8th. That way we're going to be
Okay.
confident that we'll be well along. And I do appreciate you trying to.
I withdraw the motion. Am I allowed to do that?
Yes,
wasn't
would you like to
seconded.
make a new one for the 8th of November?
Sure. I move that the public hearing be scheduled for November 8th, for our November 8th regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion?
That's election day. I would,
That's, you kidding me?
Oh my gosh.
that's November 8th, right? You said?
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
pointing
that
that
is
out.
your meeting date.
But we do have a meeting, don't we?
It's a
Yeah,
regularly
it is
scheduled
a
meeting.
regularly scheduled meeting on that that date.
Are
That
we
comes up-
allowed to do it? Are we allowed to
That
do it?
comes up annually. Yep, you've.
I don't think people are
absolutely
gonna be paying attention though. That's the only thing. If you want public,
What if we could compromise and you could set up a special date for the first and not have your meeting on the 8th, I don't know, or whatever.
So your alternative is to
Or the 15th.
hold a
That's-
special meeting on a different date. So you have 65 days to schedule the public hearing from the date of acceptance. So that gets you until November 17th at the latest. So
Would
you
the
could-
applicant like to wait for us to decide and just, we'll
Well-
decide,
Yeah,
we won't have it in October?
yeah, I guess this is up to you whether or not you want to have your meeting on the 8th. We're happy to be here on the 8th if that's when you decide to have your meeting. If you wanted to reschedule your meeting, we'll.
I would rather have it on the 8th than have a special meeting.
Yeah, okay.
I would agree with that.
So the motion is on the table.
Okay, I second it. We had
Yep,
a
so
little
it's
discussion,
standing.
so I guess it's time to vote. So all in favor of the public hearing being on November 8th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay. No
right.
abstention? I don't think we have anybody who can abstain at this point. Okay.
Yeah, so six in favor and one opposed, so.
Okay.
We
scheduled for
will
the-
see you on the 8th and I'll vote early like I always do.
Yeah.
And we will have you on the agenda again on the 25th for continued discussion and
Sure,
any
great.
update.
Yep. And if you have any comments on our submissions, just get in touch with us, as I know you will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to sections 7 enforcement actions. We have V22-10389 Princess Pine Road, DeLeo, for a show cause hearing. So
Okay.
Alexis, do you want to get us up to speed?
Sure. Thank you for your patience. So this is a show cause hearing. The state statute requires that the wetland agency hold a show cause hearing anytime an order is issued. And a show cause hearing allows the agency to take in all of the circumstances. So first I will give my description of why I determined there was a wetland violation and why I issued the notice violation in the order. And then the agency will give you, the DeLeos, the owner of the property, a chance to speak. And then the commission will take all of that information and make a decision regarding the order. And the type of order of decision they can make is to either uphold the order, to uphold and modify the order, or to withdraw the order. So I'm going to go through just the why we issued you, why we feel that a enforcement order was an enforcement action was warranted, and then they'll turn it over to you guys. Any questions or? We're good. Okay. So we received a complaint in mid-August that there was tree clearing at 9 Princess Pine Road. So Amelia and I went out to the property on the 16th of August. And I'm sorry, not the 16th. That's when we wrote. See if I wrote it on the same day. So we went out on Monday, the 15th of August, and found that there was some tree and vegetation removal ongoing at the rear of the property. And let's see if I can share the screen. No, that's not it. Hold on. Sorry. I have to toggle back and forth through different PDFs. So Princess Pine Road is off in West Norwalk. The water course on the side here is the 5 Mile River.
Alexis, we
Yeah.
can't see your screen right now. I
Okay.
think you got knocked out.
Try it again.
Okay, we can
How's
see
that?
it now. That
Okay.
works.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So the blue here is the 5 Mile River. It flows generally from north to south. On the right-hand side is the Princess Pine Road, driveway and existing residence. The contour lines are 1 foot intervals, so the dark ones are every 5 feet, and then the smaller gray, thinner brown ones are 1 foot contour intervals. So together it's a 1 foot interval. As you can see, it's a high point in the front of the yard, and then it slopes down where the house is to this area here. Other properties to the south and to the north have previously had their wetlands delineated. No wetlands are delineated on this property. The GIS, the Geographical Information Systems aerial photogeometric analysis done by other people found what they thought was a water course here. I did not see a stream, but there has been an area of a prolonged inundation kind of in this part of the property. The area where we saw activity is within this red area. My concern is that the area at the base of the slope to the edge of the 5 Mile River is likely wetlands. Let's see if I can, am I still sharing my screen with photographs? Yes.
Yes, you are.
So this is a photo log that I think I sent to the commissioners last week. The photos on the left were taken in the spring of 2001. The property, just for background, the property has been a mess for many years. It was on the market for sale for quite a long time. I met with multiple potential buyers in the spring of 2021. I did not meet with the current owners who now own the property, but I think that they ended up buying it in May of 2021. So soon after the photograph on the left was taken. So on the left is the spring of 2021, and on the right is the August 2022, when we went out to look at the inspection, to do an inspection following the complaint. And oops, sorry, much faster than I thought. And so these, we tried to line up the remaining trees to show you kind of what it looked like before and then after. So on this, it's very hard to see, but there is a fence here. This is the property line with the property to the north. And then there was no fence previously, but this is that same property line with the property to the north. Property to the north has maintained a lawn in this same area for some time. And then you can see kind of the wooded condition of the property at 9. The enforcement order talks about the construction of a retaining wall, and in that I'm referring to this newly constructed wall. This is what the property looked like when I went out there in 2021. This deck was demolished. It had previously extended to approximately here. This is I presume a September photograph. This was sent in by the respondents of the current condition. I think trying to show some of the plants that they have installed. in the area in question, but they can talk to that further. And this is another photograph from the spring of 2021, again showing kind of more non-manicured and woodland condition of the property. The water course, the 5 Mile River, is here in both pictures. And then these are just some of the photographs that we took in on August 15th. This is a downed tree, and then the foliage on the tree, just trying to indicate, to show you that the trees were not dead. Another tree. This is the area of inundation where I had seen previously standing water. These are bits of remnant bits of skunk cabbage, these parts here. Again, this is the house on the upper right, and then this is the chipper at the driveway chipping some of the trees. This is the same tree that you just saw a picture of with its foliage. This is some of the smaller trees that were piled waiting for the chipper in the background. This is the property line and the I think that's actually the property to the south. This is looking back up at the house. Again, in the foreground is the foliage of the trees that have been cut, and then the newly constructed wall. 2 different views of the trees that were cut. So this is this tree and this tree are the same tree. Just one's looking slightly kind of more north, and one's looking northwest. Same photos. I think that's about it. So in the order, I think that Amelia and I went around and counted vegetation that had more than a 4-inch diameter, and we counted 21 kind of stumps, I guess, ranging from 4-inch to 12-inch, and then about 10 that we could identify shrubs that had diameters less than 4 inches within that area. So we determined that the amount of removal of vegetation from the understory and the kind of that lower ground vegetation had been sufficiently disturbed and removed, and did indeed warrant a notice of violation, because the amount of removal I felt did meet the definition of a regulated activity within the wetland itself. And then additionally, the demolition of the deck and then the new block retaining wall construction were done directly adjacent to what appears to be a wetland, and certainly within 100 feet of the 5 Mile River, and that activity would also warrant a permit. So it's for those reasons that we issued a notice of violation on the 16th. The notice did come back unclaimed, so the respondent had an issue with getting the order, and I think, or the notice. And so we took what our standard next step is to issue an order, and we did issue an order on the 30th of September, and the respondent did get that, and they're here tonight. Any questions for me before you turn it over to the?
I have a question. What are we basing our very specific definition of the wetlands at 9 Princess Pine on? The overview that you showed
Mhm.
indicated wetlands north and south, but nothing on the property.
Right.
So how do we know specifically where the wetlands? Do we just assume that that red line includes them all, or what?
So that's a good point. So the wetland map is for planning purposes only, as we've kind of previously discussed. We have two sources of information for locational information. We have a regional soils mapping that's done by the USDA. So that's really made at Fairfield County wide scale. The USDA mapped only soil units that were greater than 5 acres in size. And then we have our field delineated wetlands, properties where a property owner has had to field delineate the wetland for whatever reason. So there are, if we were, this is a PDF, so I can't zoom out, but if we were to zoom out, well, let's see. I try to do the map that's based on. Give me a second. Let's see if I can.
I mean, there is and cannot be any confusion about the 100-foot setback line. I mean, that's there. I mean, that's,
Right.
that
Let
doesn't
me
require
just
soil sampling.
try to share. Let's see if this works.
Okay,
Okay, so the dashed lines are those estimated soil type areas, and then the green lines, the darker green, are where wetlands have been field delineated. And so sometimes you can get an estimated wetland that goes, for example, this one goes right through this house, but there is no longer a wetland there because it was filled in when number 14 Princess Pine was built. So it is, the map itself is just for planning. As it says on the official map, at the end of the day, the delineation of a wetland depends on the actual character of the land. And so what we do is most wetlands are, there are many wetlands that are adjacent to water courses. So those would be riparian wetlands. So we would expect to see wetlands on either side of a water course. And then we look at the topography. So this drop in topography and then kind of a flat kind of floodplain area is an indication of where wetland soils would likely be.
which is the one that says where wetland soils would likely be? Which one is that? Which line is that?
So what I would do is take the wetlands where wetlands have previously been delineated.
Right.
And so we have a wetland delineation here and a wetland delineation here. I think this one is an estimated one from I'd have to look it up again. I don't remember. It was in the 1990s. But I would use the base of the slope as a estimated area where there is a high potential for wetlands to exist. And that would be using, this watercourse feature and also just the character of the land when we were out there. So the presence of facultative wetland plants like the skunk cabbage that I mentioned. The skunk cabbage was kind of remnant pieces of it, but skunk cabbage 99% of it will only grow in a wetland itself. It's not a plant that grows outside of a wetland. We also look at the buttressing of trees and other kind of physical characteristics of the land that indicate wetland presence or not.
Okay, so the actual delineation of the wetlands on 9 is compared to other definitions, circumstantial, because we have not actually drilled down to see what the soil types are.
Right, so in the notice of violation, I am correct, saying that a corrective action permit is required because there had been a regulated activity within that upland review area of the watercourse, and an area that appears from my inspection of the field to be a wetland. And the first directive would be to have the respondent delineate the extent of wetlands on the property.
Well, I agree with that, and I also agree that regardless of what the measurement of the wetlands is, the closeness to the watercourse, is something that would, activity within that range would have to have a permit. I mean, that's our law. As the wetlands is yet to be established, other than circumstantially. But I was just looking for clarification. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Alexis? All right, can I ask that the property owners, if you'd like to respond and discuss, the work done on your property? You're muted
Sorry,
right now.
Kristen, you're muted.
Oh.
A mute button in the lower left.
And Kristen, while you're working on unmuting, I just wanted to follow up by saying that so there were 3 directives in the enforcement order. You got it. 1 is to have a soil scientist delineate the wetlands. 2 is to submit a corrective action application that shows the pre-existing and the proposed conditions. And then the 3rd is to implement the whatever that corrective action approval entails. None of the deadlines for those activities were altered for the order. So if you decide to withdraw, that's fine. But if you uphold the order, those deadlines would need to be adjusted.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Can you hear us now?
Maybe, do you have 2 phones on? I see that you're listed twice. So that might be causing feedback. So if you could maybe.
Okay, so now you're on once. You're still muted.
I think they're still on the second time though.
How's that?
Turn off one of them. I don't know why you're listed 2 times. Are you on 2 different devices?
We need a lip reader.
I'm going to try to remove your one. So you're listed twice. So now give it a try now. Try to unmute and we'll.
The mute button is usually on the bottom left corner of the view.
You don't see it?
Okay, I see them connecting to audio
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Maybe she needs to move her cursor down in order to see the mute button. It isn't just sitting there on the screen when you look at it.
Right.
My kids would have a laugh if they heard me making that comment, like I know anything about stuff.
Tech savvy. You are tech savvy. Let me see if I can
I mean, they could call in.
call in. Yeah, that's what I was gonna call I think they had called. I'm going to call them.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yes, we can.
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
Here we go. Okay. Uh-oh.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, that was me. I
All
hung up.
Thank you for bearing with us. Like I said, we're not super tech savvy.
You're good though. We can hear you now. So
All right. I can't see me, but can you see us?
We can't see you, but
All
you
right.
know, we can hear you. So
right. Well,
if you'd
then
like to
I'll-
proceed.
All right. I had pictures, but here's the thing. First of all,
you can email them to me if you like.
right now.
Yeah, do it.
All right. Can you use the phone and do that?
Okay, what's
So-
the email?
What's
So
Ask
it's
whatever.
people? I am so sorry. All right. The bottom line is this. We didn't know that we were doing something wrong. All right. I'm just going to put that out there to begin with. We bought this house. Well, Ken bought it, what, a year ago, I guess?
Yeah. but-
Anyway, and the first thing that happened to him is he got a blight notice that the place was so disgusting and he was responsible to clean it up. And by disgusting, I have explained this to the ladies when they were here, and our neighbors have attested to us and told us it was a rental property for a very, very long time. And instead of discarding their trash like through the city with trash cans, but they were apparently just heave-hoeing it over the back deck. We have multitude of pictures of the disgusting mess we cleaned up, from plastic bottles, baby diapers, trash, blah, 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 blah. And it was just horrible. So that was one thing that we focused on. The second thing is we had O'Neill's tree service come out, and they identified for us, there were 5 big disease trees that were due to the disease and the dryness, were in danger of falling onto our house. And they were insect ridden, they were covered in invasive vines. And so we scheduled to have them taken down. I didn't know I had to get in touch with anybody first. We just didn't know. And as far as what was there in the backyard, we inherited a mess. There are different people in our neighborhood that have shared with us and will attest that there had been other clearing and things done here where they just left the chips and they left whatever. And when we bought it, we just were trying to clean it up. That's all. I am very concerned about, nature and the environment. I discussed this with Alexis and the other gal who were here. We're not looking, we haven't looked to put in any lawn. Like, we look to the left and right of us, and these people have lawns that go right down to the river, and they've cleared all the trees, and that's not what we were even looking to do. We're not putting a lawn. I explained, we're going to plant more ferns and get rid of the diseased trees. So that's where we are. I actually, before I even got this notice to come to this, printed out,
She can't see.
oh, you can't see, this thing on the internet called the City of Norwalk Conservation Commission Wetlands Guide. Used that as my guide as to what to plant back there. And basically that's been my guide. I can't show you, I guess, but you know, I have the receipts and the planting guide, and I'm an avid gardener. I did massive research into what went into wetlands, because that's what Alexis said was back there. And it's beautiful. I mean, the disease and the trash are gone. We didn't fill it in. We didn't build anything. What's here is what was here. And I guess what we're trying to do now is say, what now? You know, I wish I can submit pictures. Could you send them what happened? What's that?
No, I don't.
Well, there's pictures. Sorry. Anyway, so we're happy to figure out what to do now. I can attest that it's beautiful. Everyone in our neighborhood can. It's done with the guide to wetlands planning. All we wanted to do was make it natural and clean and get rid of the trash. You know, I can give you a list of what we planted, you know, because we went with off of the City of Norwalk guide. The list includes winterberry, mountain laurel, pepper bush, silk dogwood, red choke bush, witch hazel, swamp azalea, pussy willow, black willow, arrowwood, fringe sedge, bearded sedge. Where's my other list? The flag iris, the wool grass, and where's the one with the big trees? Well, I don't know where that is. But I have the receipt. I looked up the only kind of, oh, here it is. The trees that we could plant along the edge of our property to be in compliant. And it was the one that says trees is the American arborvitae. And I ordered over 75 of those, specially to be put here to take the place of anything that might be gone. And, you know, we also, I think there might have been some confusion as what was branches, because we did raise the canopy, and as we tried to get rid of some of the invasive vines. And that's where we are. I don't know what else to say.
I would, if I can just interject, Ms. DeLeo, the one thing that seems perfectly clear to me right from the go is that there was no effort whatever on your part to evade or somehow manage to hide the fact that you had responsibilities or didn't have them. So what we're left with is certainly nothing to do with it, anything that would suggest accusations or guilt or adversarial status. We just need to figure out how to resolve this.
Yes.
And to work out a time plan that's reasonable for you guys and that is going to, you know, permit you basically to have what you want in the first place, which is a house which has got a nice, you know, wetlands friendly part of it.
Yes, as well as healthy. Like I said, we wanted to make the land be able to grow well. So
Right.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Commissioner Mailing, like we can see your intent. It's great that you've cleaned up this whole area. We're, you know, very happy with all of that. I think, you know, it is about resolving this, you know, and as he said, there was no intent, you know, you wanted to make the property better.
Yeah. We are constrained by the law. I mean, we cannot ignore the fact that the law requires a permit for the kind of activity that took place. That's there, and staff is perfectly correct in sending out a notice of show cause in a situation like that is a first step towards figuring out how we're going to, get it done. But we're a commission of people who live in Norwalk and who, we don't get paid for what we do. And we'd like to see this work out for you. If you can kind of, trust us, I guess is what you'd have to say. I'm certain that we can figure out ways that we can, resolve this for you without it being, some sort of lifelong curse. But again, the legalities of it are something that we have to deal with. The timing, we have much more flexibility with that. So.
I also would like to open up, if anyone would like to stop by. I mean, pictures don't even do anything justice. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this PowerPoint thing or whatever. And I certainly, when I have a little bit more time and whatever here, I can email in anything. We, like I said, we did not ever mean to evade anything. I told Alexis, since we moved in, we were having trouble with mail. And the day we got her letter that we had to sign for, I addressed it right away. Where anything else went, I don't know. But I have a order from Stanford. I had to go all the way over and find out. We were getting mail here for about anybody but us. And, that has been resolved. But the minute we got, and we did get one in the mail eventually, regular mail, but it was postmarked the 10th of October, the 4th of October. So I just do want to clear that up. There's no anything other than us wanting to be in compliance. I didn't know, we didn't know, and whatever we have to do, you tell us. I mean, we just want to make it right.
Well, I think step one is that we have to vote among ourselves on what we have to do legally, which means that we have to vote on whether or not or how to deal with this in restore order, and that's really a technicality. By the way, thank you for the invitation. And then we can go through and we can say, okay, fine. Maybe the first step is to get a soil scientist to come in there and officially define what the wetlands is, stake it, and have it go on the records. And then that is resolved. And then we can move towards those things which have been done and those things that haven't been done after we do that. I don't know. I mean, it seems to me something that could get worked out with staff. Am I assigning you a big handful here, Alexis, or does it make sense? Or?
You're muted, Alexis.
Huh?
Of course, I never get past one meeting without talking and being muted. So it sounds like that Commissioner Malin, that you are indicating a path towards upholding the order, but modifying the directives to give the respondents additional time.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I would, I mean, based on the law, which we're obligated to follow, I would uphold, but then I would say at the same time, let's look at this and let's be deliberate about it, and find a way forward. That might be 3 or 4 steps. That might take several months. I don't know. But however long it takes, it seems to me we could make progress.
Okay, so maybe like a November 8th deadline to delineate the wetlands, so before it freezes. And
I would agree
then
with that.
either December 13th for an application, or so, when you get an application, going back to those conditions that you can impose, you can give as long of a time as you want to implement whatever further activities are proposed within an application. So you could have an application submitted by the meeting after the 8th, which would be your December 13th meeting, or you can wait until, it's up to you, the new year, January 10th. You
Well,
can ease into the new year, do January 24th. So it really is, it would be up to the commissioners to, it's up to you. I would just say that if you're going to require to delineation of the wetland, I'd have it done.
but we could
November.
use the order to specify specifically what it is that we need to address. And then look at where we are and figure out how much time it's going to take to do it. Ms. DeLeo, do you think you could get a soil scientist to come out by November 8th? And I wouldn't think it would be a very big deal to do because it's a relatively small piece of property. And I would think it could be done quickly, but
Well, here, I just do want to just toss this out as a complication for us. We're victims of the hurricane in Florida. And we're headed down there very shortly and have to deal with that right now. So November 8th gives us, let's see, we're 3 weeks. I don't know how long something like this takes or how we get somebody. I just don't want to not be answering on time again, is what I'm saying. So,
well, staff, you can work with staff on figuring out how to do it. It's very simple.
Yeah, I can send you a list of soil scientists. There is no kind of lab or anything like that. They're digging a handheld auger hole, and then
and that will delineate where the wetlands actually are in the backyard.
Yep. They make a series of, they're looking at just the top 24 inches of soil, and they're fitting what they see into this existing soil classification system. So it's what they delineate it pretty much the same day, and then they just need to write up a report and do a sketch.
Okay.
And I can send you the soil scientist list.
Okay.
And
Can you
I'll
send
mark
that
on
via email?
Yes, I believe I now have your email.
Okay, and all right, so then you will get that back and you'll get it back by November 8th.
Right. And if for some reason you have the soil scientists come out, but they don't give you a report right away, just let me know when your soil scientist is coming out. And then we can, if the production of the report is held up, we can, that's understood that you've still completed the actual soil delineation.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I just don't want to not be on time again or something. So,
Sure.
okay, so you'll send us a list of people, okay? And then what after that?
And so then it's up to the commission. So then the second directive of the order is to submit a corrective action permit application on or before. And again, that's up to you, Commissioner. For my sanity, I always schedule them on Tuesdays and often the days that you meet, just to help me kind of keep track of all the things that are going on. So your options are really anytime, but so you a month after the delineation would get you to December 13th. But you could certainly punt to January. That would be January 10th or January 24th. But it doesn't matter. And then the third would be to implement that corrective action permit.
Okay.
That's what
Action permit would be like plant the trees that I already did.
No, so what the permit says is, so the commission is, as they were saying earlier, they're required to require a permit for certain activities. And so what they're saying is you've already done some activities that technically need a permit.
Okay.
So we're going to have you do an after the fact kind of permit that just describes the work that you did in August. And then additionally, describe the work that it sounds like you've already started for adding additional native plants to the wetland. And then any other construction that you have planned in the near future would be fine to add on to. Like, I don't know if you're going to do a deck where the old deck was or anything like that.
No, the old deck fell down and
Okay, so then that
no, we're
would
not
be the
doing any
permit.
deck or anything like that.
Okay, so that would be the permit, and it would legalize kind of all of the activity that's been done without a permit. And then it would have within it conditions to complete work. You had talked about, it sounds like you are interested in doing corrective action activities like planting down there that the commission would be amenable to. And so it's just writing that down and kind of making a plan.
Okay.
And then they would
Okay.
give you an additional amount of time in that permit to actually implement it and plant everything.
Okay. No, that's fine. No problem.
Gotcha.
Since I already planted all the trees. Okay.
Yeah, that you can put
Ferns.
that into the application. So,
Okay.
you know, that can be part of the corrective application.
Okay.
Would a submittal date of the beginning of January work for you to be able to get in the application? It looks like it would be January. That would give you you know, a little
Yeah.
more than 2 months.
Fine.
Oh, is it the 17th that is our meeting, or do I not?
Nope, you
have-
would meet on the 10th. is the
10th?
second
Oh,
one.
okay, all right. I just don't have the dates in
I
my
don't either. I have the wrong
calendar
date.
yet.
You
So
have that.
January 10th would work
10th.
for you? Okay.
Okay. So submit it by then.
Yep,
before,
and
right?
within the application, the third part, Alexis, is just saying when they're going to do it, and it sounds like a lot of it has been completed, but in case there are
Well,
other comments.
Now,
Right,
where
so
do I
if-
get this application? Is that just something I write up?
I'm going to email that to you as well.
Okay.
And then Cheryl, to answer your question, the dates for implementation would be in the
The
corrective
spring.
action application that hopefully is approved. The third directive just says that the respondent shall implement completely to the full satisfaction of the wetland agency, all the restoration and mitigation activities proposed and conditions by the deadlines prescribed within such corrective action permit. That's all that.
Okay, so November 8th, I have the soil sample done. Submit this application by January 10th.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna send you, it sounds like once the commission makes a decision formally,
So I don't have the
write you a
paper.
new letter.
Okay.
I don't have the
okay.
paper in front of me to make the motion. Does anybody, so that they can read off the numbers and the,
Oh, all right. I'm sorry.
I'll need some help with that. So if somebody
can
can make a
move.
motion.
I move that we uphold enforcement action number V22-1038, 9 Princess Pine Road, subject to the and subject to the directions of the notice of violation V22-1037, all subject to what we've discussed here today. That's my motion, big one.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Just one
Okay.
thing is that, Ms. Delia, if we come out to visit, we're not going to be able to talk about all this because we can only talk about it in scheduled sessions.
Oh, okay.
We'll have a look and I'll be happy to show you photographs of my kids when they were little.
Yeah,
But
no
as far as we
problem.
can go.
Okay, okay, yep, okay. Get it? Well, you know, we have no problem. We can't even figure out how to get our pictures back on here. So, you know what, like I said, whatever, if I'm happy to email follow-up, so we have something to go by, and no problem.
All
Okay,
right, I think you have a motion on the floor in a second.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Any? Okay. So any against? Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion passes.
Thank you. right?
Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to come to our meeting, so.
Well, I'm sorry we were so disruptive. We were right tuned in till the very second we needed to be. So
No worries.
thank you, and we'll follow up with when we get the email and go through the steps. And again, I appreciate it. I don't know what else to do, but thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Do we hang up now?
Yes.
Yes, you are all set.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we can move on to approval of minutes.
Yeah,
um,
but there is, and so it goes on. So there is, sometimes on your agenda, there is a determination of permit need when I can't determine if either a new application warrants a minor permit or an intermediate permit for yourselves, or sometimes if there is a permit that you have issued and there are proposed modifications to that permit, and I need help determining whether this is a modification that you are comfortable with staff dealing with, or if it is something that you would like to have returned to you formally for you to consider. And so I have a request that came in after I had sent out the agenda. And if I could kindly ask you to consider adding to your agenda, just now I don't have the permit number, hold on a second, to amend your agenda to consider an assessment of permit need for 32 Knight Street, which you saw just last month. Permit number S22606 was approved, and they'd like to make a modification. So I just wanted to go through that with you real quickly. If you would
Okay,
consider.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to include a review of this permit for 32 Knight Street. Anybody
second,
second that? Okay,
Okay.
any discussion? All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
And traditionally, I just talk about these, but I think that the potential applicant is here. If you want to ask them questions and invite them to speak, I certainly can, but I'll give it a whirl. So again, this is Betts Pond Brook. This is the existing Lily and August building, actually extends down to here. And if you recall, very recently you approved this site plan here that would include the demolition of the back half of the building, the installation of parking, and they'd have used the building as a medical office tenant. You may recall that there was a rain garden and then a proposed garden terrace that was adjacent to the brook, and that was part of your approval. And it's this red line here that is the subject of the scope of the modification. So the Historical Commission reviewed the plan and they determined that the what would that be? The west facing facade that faces Knight Street, which is here, was historically significant and should be saved. Apparently it was constructed with the building in 1940. And so to accommodate the Historical Commission's request, the applicant would reinstall that facade at the limit of the proposed garden terrace and would look something like this. I don't think you can see Long Island Sound, and I'm sure that the buffer would be installed behind it. But this facade would be installed at the edge of that garden terrace. So obviously it's a freestanding wall. It would no longer be part of the building facade. And so it would need, a little bit more digging for the footings than maybe what you had originally envisioned for the terrace. But that is the scope of the work. And again, your options are, we have a administrative modification of permits issued by the agency, but then there's also, you know, a full modification of a permit that typically would go before you. Are you fine with staff doing a modification of your permit?
Yes.
I just have a question. So the Historical Society is okay with the facade being a sculptural element? And it,
Commission,
the
yes.
commission then saves it as a sculptural element to be preserved on a property? Is that, I'm just trying to understand what.
Yeah, I did not attend the Historical Commission meeting, but I presume that this is action in response to their request, and that this is what they are. I'm presuming that.
I am here if you want me to respond directly, or yeah, this was
that-
this is
Go
Craig
ahead.
Flaherty, Craig Flaherty for the applicant. This was in direct response to the Norwalk Historical Commission's recommendation. This is what they voted to approve and recommend.
I'm not
Okay.
saying anything about the big bad wolf on this, but I would say we should allow staff to administer this. Do we need to move that?
Any other commissioners have any comments about it?
Can I just ask, what's the material on the ground around the facade there? The proposed material?
The garden terrace is approved to be, I believe, a permeable paver through your prior site plan application.
And there will be all of the usual erosion control and everything when they do their.
Yeah, I mean, this
excavation.
is, yeah, it's still within the limit of disturbance that you approved. It's actually within the limit of the existing building that has to come down.
Right.
So that's why we asked Alexis this question, whether it could be handled administratively, given that it was, you know, within a proposed area of disturbance already.
Okay, commissioners.
I'm okay with
Um,
allowing staff to handle it.
so do I need to make a motion or,
No,
Does-
as long
does
as
anyone-
there's, it sounds like there's consensus.
do we need to vote? No.
You certainly can if you want to make it crystal clear. It's up to you.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve staff approval of this
So
and
move.
oversight? Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Any against? No. Any abstentions? No. Okay,
Thank you for the clarification. I will send you the necessary application for staff modification of the permit.
okay, so I guess we'll move on now to approval of minutes from September 13th, 2022. Does anybody have any edits or comments on them? Nope. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Anybody second it?
Second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone against? No, any abstentions? One abstention. Let's see. Item 9, conservation initiatives.
Oh, I haven't done much on that. I've been doing a lot of other things, but I have not worked on moving that forward. So I will get you an update in 2 weeks
Okay,
on that specific topic of trying to reach out to property owners about the presence of wetlands. Right. I will send out, I have invitations for both, from the Recreation and Parks for their master plan of parks. They're having a public visioning workshops. So I'll send you invitations to those. They're looking for the comments from the general public, but in particular, they'd be very interested to hear anything from anyone who's currently sitting on the land use board, and that does include you. And then I'll also send out an invitation to go to Kakiwik as their annual meeting. Kakiwik stands for the Connecticut Association of Conservation and Inland Wetland Commissions, of which you're a member. They host it's an in-person meeting each fall for conservation and wetland commissioners. They have a lot of breakout sessions. They're very well done. I think, Ed, you went many years ago. It's a.
I've been a couple of times too.
You've
It's
been
very
too,
good.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll send that out if you're interested in going. There is a fee, but I can pay that fee for you through my budget. So let me know if you want to go, and I will sign you up and pay for you.
What are the
so
dates this year?
That it's,
What is
I
the
think
date?
it's the 29th of October. So it's coming up. They finally just announced it. But I believe it is. Yeah, I think it is Saturday the 20th. It is all day on a Saturday, which makes it hard to fit in for some of us.
Saturday, the 20th of October.
The 29th of October.
Where is it?
It is, I knew you were going to ask all these.
Isn't it
very
like
good
North Haven or
questions.
New Haven?
Yeah, it's in the middle of the state. All right, let's see. It is North Haven. So right off the Merritt at the Best Western Plus North Haven Hotel conference room. And the focus will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of Connecticut's Inland Wetlands Watercourse Act. And I do have for the next agenda to talk to you about your 50th anniversary. You have the 50th anniversary coming up, not only the Wetlands Act, but the formation of the Conservation Commission. And then next year will be the formation of the Inland Wetland Agency the following year. So we'll have to plan a party. But I will be sending that out shortly.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Okay, and was that also comments from staff as well? Okay, all right, so we'll move on to comments of commissioners. Anybody tonight? Nope. Okay, so would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, seconded,
Again,
all in favor? All in favor? Aye.
See you next time, everybody.
Okay, great, thank you, everyone.
Right,
Have a good
thank
night.
you. Bye.
Goodbye, Diana.
Bye, Alexis. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.